Greetings, Wilkinson here. Today my guest is Daniel Bateman. I met Daniel a couple nights ago, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, first of all, say hi to my people and I'll tell you who you are.
Hi there. My name is Daniel Bateman. I'm starring as Rufus in Gently Down the Stream, which is a production by The Bent, which is the new LGBTQ plus theater company here in Palm Springs. And yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Well, you just saved me having to do that intro.
I know.
Because I had to redub it and then you
Did I steal your line?
You stole it, but I'm glad you did it. And you had it with feeling. I liked it.
A little more emotion.
So a little bit about Daniel. So he was born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. It says, I'm reading a review from an online deal here. Saw his first musical, at age 5?
I did, with my mom.
And then you said, I want to go to dance class.
I sat there and I said, I feel something. I want to do that, whatever it is. Put me up there.
And she said, okay.
She said, yeah. I was a very loud kid with a lot of energy. So my mom was just glad to have a place to put it, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm just reading through the notes there. So you performed in Annie?
I did. That was my very first production. And then I was in Sesame Street and I did Barney and I did a bunch of, children's shows. My mom would take me to New York and we would go out and go to those auditions. And I just kind of went for it from a very young age.
Were you still in Kansas City at that point?
I was, yeah.
And so she'd take you to New York?
Yeah. So I got scouted in Kansas City. There was a showcase where some of the casting directors were coming from those shows. And they said, hey, we really want to meet with your son in New York. And so my mom at first, I think, was just kind of like, oh, yeah. It's like one of those scams. But we did it.
Pay us and then we'll not do anything.
Yeah. But I went there and I went to 3 different callbacks and then I was cast. So that's really how it all started.
So where did you actually perform that then?
In New York.
It was in New York?
Yeah.
And how old were you?
I was 7 when I started doing that.
So at age 7, you were in New York.
Yeah.
How long did that run?
I would go there for a month at a time, like about 4 or 5 times throughout the year. They would shoot it in different segments. So I did that from about age 7 through 11.
Wow.
Yeah. About 4 years until I was aged out. Then I was kicked out.
Well, you're kind of tall. What are you, 6'2" or something like that?
I'm like 6'3" and a half. Yeah.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Huh. You need to update your profile because it says you're 6'2". Yeah. On what I read.
Yeah.
You're still growing.
It's probably my old one. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then what happened?
So after that, I just wanted to keep doing it. And so as I got a little older and into high school age, I started doing it kind of regional theater and I did national touring productions. I did the national tour of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat as Joseph. And then I went to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy in Los Angeles. And then I did a 2-year training program with Juilliard as well for the drama program. So I really immersed myself in the drama and vocal aspects of theater for a long time in New York. And then I went to LA and said, this weather is so much better. And I didn't leave LA after I went there. So
did you go from Kansas City to LA?
I went from Kansas City to LA first for a little bit and then New York and then back to LA and then back to New York. And then I was...
What kind of time frames are we talking here?
Well, I went to New York when I went to school, I was 17 when I went to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, and that was in LA, and then I transferred to New York. So I was in New York between 17 through 23, I believe.
Were you going to school or just working?
I was in school, but then I was also cast in Wicked. And so after a certain point, I had to commit to that and put school on hold for a while. But I was just glad to be doing it and be getting paid rather than spending money for a little while.
Right. Did you ever go back to school?
I did. I did finish what I needed to. Yeah.
That's unusual.
I did, but I was working in it, which is great, and that's sort of
that's unusual too.
Yeah, that's what fueled me to keep going.
Yeah, New York and LA, everybody wants to be, but
I know
very few are chosen.
It was confirmation. It was like, oh, I can do this.
What do you like about theater?
I love in theater that every night is different. I love that no show is exactly the same. Anything can happen. I love the live aspect of it, the energy, and I love the ability to command people's attention through storytelling. I think there's something really beautiful about a group of people sitting in this dark room together, a lot of them strangers, and they're all sharing this experience that's really rather intimate and emotional and connected.
Right.
And I think there's something really beautiful about bringing people from all sorts of backgrounds in one spot and having everyone connect to the human emotion of storytelling.
What is your favorite production you're ever in?
My favorite production, probably Wicked, just because it was so fun and so popular and everyone knew about it. So it was so much fun to just explain that I was in that to people.
And you sang and danced in that?
I did. Yeah, I started in the ensemble and then understudied for the role of Fiyero, and then became Fiyero for a little while. So I had a great run with that. And it was just so much fun, but I wanted to be Elphaba. I wanted to be the witch. Someday, in a Palm Springs version, that could maybe work.
Let's do it.
Times have changed. Why not?
You have to talk to Steven and Terry.
Yeah.
Get them to, hey, let's do this.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, so you're in LA. Mm-hmm. What year did you leave there?
I left LA about 7 years ago.
And you came to Palm Springs?
Yeah, well, no, because then I was in New Orleans for a little bit. I worked in the film industry there for a couple of years. Then I was back in New York for a year and I did a show. And then I came to Palm Springs. So I've been in Palm Springs now for 4 years. And
just before COVID?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this was the perfect place to be during COVID. It really was. I was really connected and grounded and really got to evaluate what I wanted in my life and what the next chapter was going to be without all the distractions of the bigger cities. It was good for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
So looking back at your life, you got the dancing, singing, acting, everything else. You're a gay guy.
I am a very gay guy.
Okay, when did you figure that out?
I have always known. I feel like when I was 5 or 6, I already knew. I remember my mom and dad taking me to Disney World for the first time when I was about 6. And that's kind of one of my first memories that I can think of. And I remember my mom was giving me a Mickey Mouse toy, and I just kept saying how handsome he was. And I just kept kissing the toy and saying, "Oh, Mickey's my boyfriend."
Really?
That was my terminology at that age.
Wow.
That's what came naturally to me. And I just went with it. I said, this is it. And luckily, my mom and dad were, very supportive. They didn't make me feel, different or that there was something wrong with me. I came from a very unusual background that way, where even though I grew up in a Christian school and went to church every weekend with my family, my parents were very supportive and accepting of my sexuality.
So no conversion therapy at age 5?
No.
Okay.
And my mom was very defensive if there was ever an issue from anyone talking about it.
So do you think they were aware when you were 5?
Yeah. I think so. I think my parents really knew from my interest at a young age, just singing. I was twirling around the house with sheets, just like I do in the show that you'll see. But I've always just been very out there and energetic and into the arts. And not that everyone, that's gay is, but it was just sort of, I was very self-aware. And I think my parents got a sense that I knew who I was at a young age.
Did you have an actual coming out moment?
I did, yeah.
How
when
old
I
were you?
was 14
Whoa.
was my actual coming out conversation with my mom. And she actually pulled me aside and said, "Hey, this guy that you're hanging with that was a friend of mine at the time from school," she said, "you're spending a lot of time with him. And you seem to really light up when you're around him." And then she said, is there something more there? Is there some other emotion going on there? And I said, yeah. I said, I really, really like him. And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, I want him to be my boyfriend. And my mom broke down into tears. Even though she already knew, it was still,
Right.
I think, that moment of just having, it was beautiful for her to see
Right.
me accept it and for me to feel comfortable to say that to her. And so she just cried and she said, I love you and I'm always here for you, and gave me this long hug, the longest hug I can ever remember. And we've been so close since then, closer than ever, really.
Did she tell your father or did you?
She wanted me to do it. She didn't feel like it was her place. I didn't tell my dad right away. I waited until I was about 16. So
wow, you waited 2 years.
I did. I waited 2 years in that time frame. There was just something about my dad, even as loving, as supportive as he was, it was different to say it to another man for a little bit. It took me some time.
And how did that go?
Really well. He cried too. My dad is a very nice person and such a sweet, supportive guy. And he was almost offended. He was offended that I didn't tell him before and that I had told my mom.
Was he mad at her because she didn't tell him?
Yeah, he was.
Like
but he was also mad at himself in a way. He said, what did I do to, make you feel like you couldn't come to
like
me?
unsafe or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was sort of evaluating his parenting at that point.
Wow.
Even though he was a good father, it was really on me. It was my internalized, projection onto him.
And your own fear.
Really, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And growing up in a Christian school didn't help that in any way.
So your parents, are they still churchgoers?
They're not. They're still Christian. They still believe in God, but they don't frequent the church. I don't think they believe in a lot of the ideology that, the church has sometimes, but they have a relationship with God. And so I think it works for them and they're good people.
So the religion part is what they don't care for.
Yeah. The organized part of it, I
Right,
think.
right.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Did they have any situations with their friends? Were they still in church when you came out, or were they gone by then?
They were still in church. Yeah.
So was there an issue with others when you came out?
There definitely was an issue with some other people from the school that had found out. They had actually had a conversation with my mom and said, hey, we're hearing this about your son, that he might be gay and all of that. And my mom, I remember she came home and after that conversation, she was just so angry. And I said, Mama, why are you so angry? Because I didn't know what they had talked about. And she said, she basically told me what had happened, that they were coming to her saying that I was gay. And she was so angry that they felt like it was a bad thing and that it was something that they felt like they had the right to pull a parent into that room and say something so personal to someone else. Like she knew that was something that was special for me to do. That's what if I hadn't been out yet?
Right.
That's not their place to even have that conversation. So she really was pretty adamant about getting me out of that school at that point. And she did. Almost a week and a half later, I left.
Where'd you go from there?
And I was homeschooled for
Really?
a while because I wanted to pursue more theater opportunities. And that schedule is crazy, especially when you're a minor and your parent has to take you everywhere. So I said, yeah, let's just go for it. Let's do it. And I think my mom really wanted to shelter me sort of at that point. But in many ways, it wasn't sheltering me because it allowed me more time to do theater. And in theater, I was around more gay men, which allowed me the ability to really connect to my true self even more so than I would have in school.
So you kind of had some role models
I did.
At that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just remember going to theater rehearsals and seeing these gay men that were much older and happy and proud in their lives with their partners. And it was just such a different perspective being able to be around that and see that.
And to be normal.
Yeah, because they were beautiful, wonderful people.
Right.
What's
your favorite city you've lived in?
My favorite city that I've lived in, I would say Palm Springs is
Really?
actually my favorite city. I think there's a good variety of people here, backgrounds. Everyone comes from some crazy story here that I love to hear. Just like my character in the show, I am really, truly fascinated by whatever brings people here to the desert, because it's such a specific place in the world to be. And I just find it's just this beautiful, artistic, open-minded city that I've really had a lot of fun in.
So you're doing your career we've talked about. What else have you done? There's something else out there. What is it?
Yeah. So I've had a real estate business for the past about 8 years. And that's been a great supplemental, business for me to do in addition to my true passion, which is performing arts. But I love real estate. I love the idea of connecting with people. There are a lot of similarities to the arts that way, and just the marketing and the creativity and, having to be accountable for yourself. And I do really, really enjoy that part of it. But it's definitely not as fun overall as being on the stage. But it's a great business to be in for me.
And by the way, we'll put all of your notes, including your real estate link, in case anybody wants to buy or sell a house.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah, I'm a lot of fun. I make it a fun process.
So let's talk about your current production you're in. How'd you snag the role?
So I had done a musical at the Palm Springs Cultural Center just a few months ago, which was the West Coast premiere of Why Can't the Trains Run on Time, which is written by Nunzio Sisto, who is the music program director there at the Cultural Center. He's a Juilliard graduate, composer, So I did that, and Terry had come to that and said, "Oh my gosh, you have to. I really want you for this production. Will you come and audition?"
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And it happened just from that. So I said, "Sure, I'll go to the audition." And I went, and right after the audition, it was pretty instant. He said, "You have to do this. This is your role. This is going to be a great showcase for you." And so I said, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it." And I'm so excited because it's an LGBT production. There's so much heart and diversity in it, and it's just such a great storyline, I feel.
So when I was watching you the other night, there weren't very many women in the audience. However, one of them was sitting next to me.
Oh.
And her name was Sonia.
Yes.
She was in that other kind with you, right?
She was in that production.
What a cool lady.
She's very sweet.
Yeah, I really liked her.
Very kind.
She was my date that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's very kind and supportive. And I warned her before she got there. I said, "You're going to see me in a very different way in this production."
Oh, wait. She hasn't seen your butt before?
No, she had never seen. So, spoiler alert, I do have a slight amount of nudity in this production, not frontal. It's a butt that is shown for a short amount of time, and I have a sheet over me for most of that scene. But that was a little terrifying and something new for me, which took some convincing.
And I'm guessing that maybe all of your dance routines you've done has helped you swing that sheet around.
Oh, yeah.
All of us were like hoping for the wardrobe malfunction, and you didn't have one.
The wardrobe malfunction has happened during rehearsals, for sure.
Dang. So is there a way to come and watch the rehearsals?
Well, maybe. Yeah, there's probably a video out there somewhere.
Uh-oh.
It is kind of terrifying in those first few moments when you start that production and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm naked right now. But there's so much to think about production-wise and the character that I'm, sunken into.
Right.
I try to just release it, because if you do think about it, the audience is going to see that and feel that.
Right. What did you like about being in that show?
I think the range in this show, there are so many different types of scenes. There's some bipolar scenes where I'm lashing out and screaming, and the next I'm cuddling and I'm in my underwear and making out. And I love that real aspect of it, that there's no sugarcoating in this relationship, that a relationship where someone is much older and someone is much younger, no matter how great it is, there are going to be some challenges that come up as time goes on. And I think this show does a really great job at not shaming the ability that, that someone young can fall in love with someone much older, but they're real about the aspect of what that's going to look like, and that there are going to be challenges. And I think that the show really beautifully wraps that up, that if you really truly do love somebody, you will make it work in some sort of form. It's just probably not going to be how you imagined it to be.
And it will evolve, probably.
Yeah, it will change. Yeah, it will change.
It seems like that play is kind of real life for Palm Springs, do you think?
It's the perfect show to do in Palm Springs, for sure. There are so many people that have come up after the show and or sent private messages and just said, "This is my life.
Right.
This was me. This is me. I am, jaded. I don't believe I can have love anymore. I've lost a partner, during the AIDS epidemic, and I've never moved on," or whatever it is. There's so many people that they find something to connect to in this show.
I loved it. So don't get me wrong on that, but it was hard to watch, actually, for me, because I'm an older guy.
Yeah.
And I've had relationships that I always joke with my friends that I say my picker was broken. My picker was broken.
Yes.
So I didn't pick the right guy to be with. But,
I understand.
Looking at it, it's like, because I'm at that point, is like, would I really want to find somebody at this point? So it brought up a lot of kind of raw emotion for me.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, well, good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's those monologues, I'm sure, especially, there's just so much content in these very long monologues that Bo, the older man, plays. And he really touches on everything, really, from, the AIDS epidemic to the fires in New Orleans.
That was hard to hear.
I mean, there's so many things, but I do think the show also does a good job at least balancing a lot of humor with it for the first half, at least. There's a good amount of silliness in there too, which is important, because otherwise it would just be depressing.
So are you single? Do you have a partner? What?
I am single at this point, and it's been good for me, actually. It's been a really discovering time and a time for me to tap into thinking about what do I want in my life next? What do I want to do? Not what someone else wants to do, but what's going to make me happy?
Or what should you do because you should do it?
Yeah. And this is the time to do it. And that's why I also wanted to do this show. I never had the intention of taking as long of a break from the performing arts as I did. I got into real estate and I said, I'm going to take 2 years or a year. And then 2 years turned into 3, turned into 4, turned into 5 because it was going well. But I completely lost track of what fulfilled me deep down. And I learned that money is definitely not everything. And
well, I'm semi-retired, so if you get too much money and you want to just like toss something, I'll take it.
Well, I don't have that problem currently,
Okay.
but I'll let you know for sure.
Oh, so have you had partners?
I have. My longest relationship was 2.5 years, I believe.
Where were you located when you had that?
I was in LA at the time.
Did you meet there?
Yeah, I wouldn't say. I mean, I've had like one probably healthy relationship. Yeah.
The LA one wasn't it?
No, no, the LA was not. Surprise.
LA.
Yeah, it was pretty toxic. To the point where I dated someone who was very into, I was very young, I was early 20s, and he was very into like the scene, you know, the gay scene out and about at the parties. And I was, you know, being from the Midwest, I wasn't used to all that. And so it was fun.
Right.
But he was so caught up in it that there was almost this sense that I had to have this perfect body all the time. There was so much pressure from this person that I was constantly evaluated, constantly made to have this body dysmorphia that I sort of carried on for years, which is why doing this production was honestly such a big deal for me, because I was like, wow, going from having some trauma with those experiences to now being on stage, literally showing it to the entire audience.
Right.
I've come a long way, and I owe that to therapy and being able to really tap into my power again.
Right. Well, you look great.
Thank you.
But because I'm a photographer, I've heard all this stuff before. You know, it's like it doesn't matter what I think, it's what's in your head.
Yeah.
That's what's important.
And it's what we internalize from a young age of what we hear. Right. And it's not the truth, but I was with someone who just was very abusive that way, and knew what to say to make me feel that way in those moments of anger. If he was jealous.
Do you think you should do a smaller portion of that?
Yeah.
When you're eating or something like that?
It's things like that. Or it would just be standing and coming up and like pinching like an area of a love handle and saying, what are we going to do about this? It's a pretty intense way to live, especially if you're already in the performing arts where you're constantly having to battle it out and be evaluated day to day. And then you go home, and once you're home, you have that in your own house where you're being evaluated. Right. You have nowhere to just be a person. You have nowhere to just relax.
And so I assume physically he was perfect.
He wasn't. That was the whole thing. I was like, what? Where is all this even coming from? You know?
You were the trophy.
Maybe. I don't know. But I was what he... Yeah, I mean, I was this doll in some way to him of what he was trying to morph me into. And it was just really unhealthy for a long time. And it's funny because now I'm such a different person where when I look back at that, I'm like, why the hell did I stay in that situation? Like I would never now, like I'm so quickly now, probably too quick, but to push something aside if it doesn't feel right.
Well, in my experience, I say to myself, don't ask for anything that you can't put on the table yourself.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. But I do think body dysmorphia is a bigger issue within the gay community than most gay men talk about, for sure. Right. There is a sense of that. I think a lot of people think, oh, you're males, so you don't have the same body pressure that like females do. But if you're a gay man, there's a strong sense of having to keep yourself up all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I've talked about this before because I'm a photographer and I shoot a lot of guys, but often they're like scared shitless to do photo shoots.
Yeah.
And, but they do it. I mean, they walk through their fear, they do it. And they genuinely don't see themselves the way they are.
Right.
So I do the photos, I do minor editing.
Yeah.
I show them the finished product. And I probably heard this many dozens of times.
Yeah.
But they look at the photos, keeping in mind, prior to that, they didn't like what they look like.
Yeah.
And then they look at the photo and they go, whoa, I date me.
Yeah. Yes.
And I go, bingo. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think so many people lose track that it's not even just that. It's like it's the whole way that you carry yourself, that complete light. You know, how many times have you ever been somewhere where there's a guy who, you know, maybe wasn't, you know, some supermodel, but it was somebody who just had this energy that you were just so attracted to.
Right.
You know, this smile, this look in the eyes, whatever it is. I think we underestimate that there are so many other forms of beauty out there.
How about your family? Talk about them. You get along with them?
I get along with my family so well. My mom and my dad, I call every day. I have since I went off to college.
Is that your idea or theirs?
It was my idea because I knew that if I was going to be the one leaving, that if I didn't keep that up, that we would drift apart. And I didn't want to allow that to happen.
Where do they live now? Are they still in?
They're all in Kansas City.
They're still there.
My brothers are there. My parents are there. And I'm close with my brothers too. They're both very straight bro guys, you know, so they think it's hilarious. Like they're so supportive, but they love to tease me in certain ways, like asking me questions. And I mean, even sometimes sexual questions or things that they just find intriguing or interesting. They're like, I just don't understand. How does that work? And I'm like, well, how do you think it works? Like, it's the same process, really, you know, but.
So you have 2 brothers?
Yes.
So
I have an older and a younger.
So 3 boys.
3 boys,
okay,
yeah.
Cool.
And my mom had 3 boys. I mean, she only had 3 kids because she wanted to have a girl. They kept trying. And so maybe that's in some way why I'm so close with my mom, because I'm that kind of middle ground where I will do the things with my mom that my brothers will not do. My mom and I will go and shop together, whereas my brothers would never in a million years go shopping with my mom.
I do not have the shopping gene. And I'm very gay, but no way. I hate shopping.
Yeah. But I'll just go do those things that my mom wants to do a little more. I mean, I've gotten manicures and pedicures with my mom, you know?
Oh my God.
It's fun. Yeah. But they're a great group of people who are so supportive, and they understand why I am out here and pursuing opportunities on the West Coast.
So they're cheering you on.
Yeah. I mean, my mom basically told me, she said, if you don't do it now, when will you do it? And even though you can do it later in life, the roles change and the opportunities kind of dwindle in some way. And so, you know, while I'm in my early 30s now, I'm 32, there is this time to sort of still do some of what I really want to do over the next few years.
So then you just switch to the Beau character. That's all.
That's it. I know. Yeah. But it's more fun for me to be the playful younger one, you know?
Right. Oh. Were there any snags getting back to that production? Any snags doing it, or did everything go smoothly?
Everything has gone pretty smoothly. Yeah, which is pretty amazing because we really only had 2 dress rehearsals.
Wow. How long did it take to prepare for that?
Well, this show
to
was
the point where starting with the point where you said, I've got the role.
Like 3 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. It was and there's a lot of dialogue. Like if you see this show, you will find out there's just a lot of conversation that pretty much the entire show takes place in this flat of the main character, Beau. And so a lot of it's
stylish flat, I might add.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah. They did a great job.
Yeah. Who designed that?
Actually, Steve Rosenbaum, really, who's the director, came up with a lot of that concept.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah. It was great. And then we've got a crew of a few people that they use also who did a really good job.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a theater that you're performing in, so it's probably a little bit awkward with stage stuff, a little bit maybe.
Yeah, it's a hard theater, I think, to do too many sets with, because, for example, we have to break the set down in between the showings, like not every day, but from last weekend to this weekend, the theater's used for other things during the week. Right. So we have to take that entire set down, and there's a lot of props in this show too. That's the other thing. There's a lot of handbags. There's a walker. There's all kinds of glasses. Right. There's just so many things that go with the dialogue. So
is that real alcohol up there? Or no?
No, it's not real alcohol, but it's real hot chocolate when I have a hot chocolate scene.
And it was steaming when you brought it out. How do you do that?
We have a coffee maker back there.
Oh, really?
And I just put the hot water and then I put the hot chocolate mix in there. The director's very particular about, Steve Rosenbaum is very detailed.
Right.
And he doesn't want anyone in that audience to sit there and say something isn't real. You know, he wants it to all feel very authentic.
I watched a movie recently, and the father, the guy that's playing the father, is always on he's got a pipe, and he's like smoking it, but it's not on. Yeah. It's not lit, and it's really distracting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good for that steam coming
People
out.
look for those things.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's right. You know, if you drop something on a stage, if you don't pick it up, everyone's looking at that thing. You know what I mean? And it's weird how that works, but it's the truth. A lot of people do look for those little flaws, and so as many as you can just, like, if you do drop it on that stage, just go with it.
You know,
like
make naturally.
Make it part of your character. Like, oh,
right.
you know, here you drop it again, or something like that. You know,
Right.
and that's what you do. You have to go with it.
What's with the, what was it? Was it a goose or a duck? What was that thing up there?
Oh, the chicken.
The chicken. Okay.
Yeah. So there's this chicken.
What's with that?
Well,
is that in the original play?
No.
Okay, so you guys threw that in.
The chicken, is basically when I started to move into Beau's apartment, something that I brought in. And if you notice, the entire apartment is like gray.
Right.
Right? It's all gray and very neutral, darker colors. The chicken is colorful. The chicken represents me moving in and kind of bringing this vibrancy into his life.
So you brought the chicken with you.
I brought the chicken,
Okay.
yeah.
Was I supposed to have caught that, or was it just
No,
there?
it's just one of those little details.
Okay.
Not necessarily, but the chicken just, it's there. And when I have my breakdowns, that chicken is kind of this comforting thing that I have, like almost becoming a child again.
Was it weird doing those breakdown bipolar moments?
Oh yeah, it's definitely, because it's exhausting to really tap into that as an actor. If you're going to do it right, which, you know, I really do tap into that zone, you really kind of do have this bipolar episode where all of a sudden I've, you know, convinced my own mind that I'm having this issue, this breakdown, and my heart
Right.
rate is up, you know.
Right.
So it is a lot to go through night after night.
What's coming up for you?
So I've got several film projects that I'm going to be working on in LA. I've got a Netflix film that I'm going to be working on called Dark.
What's that about?
Dark is a musical that's basically about these kids who, well, not kids. Here I am, like making myself sound very young. This group of people in their 30s who essentially get trapped in this cave, and while they're in this cave, they're discovering all of these things about each other. They're four people who don't really know each other that well, and they are very popular online and portraying these perfect lives. But when they're trapped and in danger, they kind of really have these conversations about their backgrounds and where they come from, and trying to find a way out and work together. So it's pretty interesting. Is
this a movie or a show or
it's a film? Yeah.
It's a film. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, based off of a script that was for a play, but they're going to do it as a film.
And you haven't started that yet, right?
No. So it's fun. I'm excited for this chapter. I'm excited to tap into all of this again. And
Do you go to LA for that?
yeah,
How long will that take?
probably a month and a half, 2 months. I try to split my time. I'm going to be splitting my time a lot more with LA over the next year as I'm getting more into it. I have some, agents I'm talking with there, trying to figure out what my next step is going to be. And if I'm going to do it, that's just kind of how I feel right now. It's like, if I'm going to go for it, I just have to go for it. Just balls to the wall, you know?
So you've got that. What else?
What else? I have a lot of like charity work that I do, nonprofit work that I do. I basically am very involved in a bunch of organizations that deal with elderly LGBT. I specifically, within my real estate organization, have this foundation that basically I help place elderly men who don't have someone. Maybe they were ostracized in some way for being gay, and they're in the final moments of their life going through hospice. And they don't have someone there. And I basically help place people to go and essentially keep these people company. So that's really important for me, is to find ways to...
So you have volunteers that go in there and do that?
Mm-hmm, I do, yeah.
What's the name of that?
That's called Joseph's Friends, which is based off of a client of mine who passed away, but was such a sweetheart, and one of my first clients who gave me a chance and really believed in me when I first got into real estate. It was so competitive and so tough. And,
right.
And I just remember I said to him, I really want this opportunity. And he said, why not you? He said, let's do this. I want to see you succeed. And he said,
Cool.
I believe in you. And I think everybody just needs that person. They need that person to give them a shot in something.
So you started this whole thing based on that experience?
Based on that man, yeah.
Cool. How long have you been doing that?
That's been going on for about 5 years.
How many volunteers do you have?
We've got about 70 8, I think, we've had 78 volunteers from the last about 6 months. So it's pretty frequent.
And how many people have you served on the other side of that?
Oh, gosh, hundreds. Okay. Yeah, well into the hundreds.
And that's all in the desert here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Starting to branch out to LA as well, since I'm going to be spending time there. Yeah. But I think it's so important to, as a human being, just have a place to put something that's meaningful.
Right. So is that a nonprofit then?
Yeah. Everything.
So acting, singing, dancing, on stage, real estate, and nonprofit.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
cool.
It's a lot to juggle. It takes a lot of time. And people don't realize, I think, how much time theater takes specifically. It's just such a preparation process.
How do you clear out your mind to memorize all those lines?
Oh, goodness. I think for me, the key is I read the script over and over and over and over from start to finish, even without the scenes, specifically breaking them down. I try to read the script as many times as I can so that I'm very clear on what's happening.
Like the sequence and all that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. That helps me first of all. And then I kind of tap into the lines little by little by little. But I have learned that if you know what's happening in the scene, as long as you're familiar with the phrases and you've read it so many times, if you really just listen to the other character and what they're saying,
you just naturally respond.
A lot of the time, you'll be like, oh, that's this one, because it will come naturally at that point.
Right.
So if you allow yourself to do that, I have found that that's really the best way to learn, because it really trains you to focus on the listening part. Because acting is also react. It's not just what you're saying.
So in your long, long life that you've lived so far,
32 years.
Tell me a couple things you go by, or lessons that you've learned that you haven't. Well, you can expand on what you've said, or anything new that you might come up with.
I think a big one for me is RuPaul's quote, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anyone else? That's such a true thing that I have learned, from the kind of abusive relationships that I've been in the past that were verbally abusive. I have learned that, the only person who really can control your own emotions is yourself. And so many things that we feel are a choice. And so I have learned that if someone makes you feel a certain way, even if I don't like it, it is still my reaction and my emotion that is reacting to that.
Right.
And so I think it's so important to tap into what we feel, and that we really are in control of more so of our moods than we might think that we are sometimes.
So you can't control them, but you can control you.
You can control your reaction.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you're never. That's the other thing, is you will never please everybody. And that's the thing. You will see theater and there will be one person in the audience who thinks something is the best thing in the world. And then there will be that person next to them that just doesn't understand.
Right.
That's just people. That's just living. Not everyone likes the same football team. Right. It's just.
All art is like that.
Right. Everything's subjective.
That's the best ever. Oh, I wouldn't put that in my garage.
Exactly. And everyone sitting in that theater is seeing it from a different perspective. The person seeing it on the left side is seeing some different things in that live performance than that person on the right side is. And everyone's having a different experience in some way.
And each of them is interpreting it through their own lens of their own experience.
Yeah, what happened to them that day, Were they late getting there? Were they stuck in traffic? Did they just get laid off? I mean, they're bringing their own experiences into that theater.
Any other final words?
Final words.
Words of wisdom.
I think the words of wisdom, I think so many people just get caught up in this idea that they can't do things anymore because they haven't done them in a while. For me, it was sort of that way. I thought, I've been in real estate now 7 years. I can't even perform anymore. What am I talking about? I can't do it. I've lost that, muscle. And I think it was like riding a bike. As soon as I got back into it, I was like, hell yeah, I can still do it. And I'm going to thrive. And I think everybody should do that. Find those things that they want to do and just go for it.
And this new bike is fun.
This new bike is very, very fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Daniel, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
It's been great.
It's been fun.